Hey guys, Kevin here. In this new SAT Math Test Prep online course study guide review, I'll be going over the practice test number 1, session 4, question 16 to 30. And you can find the links in the description below. Let's get started.
Question 16. Which of the following represent the relationship between H and C? Go ahead, pause the video and try the question. The answer is C. So this question is really asking us our classic linear equation. Y is equal to mx plus b. And in this case, the y here is whatever is on the y-intercept, which is c. And the x here in this case is whatever on the x-intercept, which is h. So let's rewrite that. So we have h is equal to m times h plus b, where b is the y-intercept, in this case is the c-intercept. So if we're looking at the graph, the c-intercept is at 5. So let's write that. So this becomes 5. And remember, m is the slope. So let's review our slope formula. Slope is equal to change in y over change in x, or in other words, change in c over change in h, or is equal to rise over run, which in this case, if we look, let's pick 2 points on this line. Let's pick this point here and this point here. And so let's calculate the rise. So the rise is so starting at 5 to 6, 7, 8. So that's the rise here is 3. And the run here is just 1, right? From 0 to 1. So the rise is 3, the run is 1. So our slope is 3 over 1, which is same as 3. So now finally we have the whole equation. C is equal to 3 times h plus 5. Question 17. The complete graph of the function f is shown in the xy plane above. For what value of x is the value of f of x at its minimum? Go ahead, pause this video and try to solve it. The answer is B. This question is asking you to interpret a graph. And whenever you see f of x, in this case is equal to y. So let's write it here. F of x is equal to y. And the question is asking at what value of x on this graph is when the value of y is at the minimum. So let's look at the graph. Which point is when y is minimum? The point is here. It's when y is equal to negative 12. So let's circle this point. And at what value of x is when y is equal to this value? So let's look. This is this origin. So negative 1, 2, 3. So when x is negative 3, y is at this low minimum. And this is done. That's your answer. And if the question is asking you to solve for the maximum point, we can do the same thing. The maximum point is at here. That's when y or f of x is at its maximum value. And when this happens, x is equal to 1, 2, 3, 3. So when x is 3, the graph is at its maximum. Question 18. In the xy plane, if 0, 0 is a solution to the system of inequalities above, which of the following relationship between A and B must be true? Go ahead, pause this video and try to solve it. The answer is A. To solve this question, they're really asking you to plug this in to these set of equation and see what the relationship is between A and B. So let's try that. So for the first inequality, we have 0 is greater than -0 plus A. So that becomes 0 is less than A. And for the second inequality, let's write it on here. 0 is greater than 0 plus B. So 0 is greater than B. And to visualize this, one way is to draw this on a number line. So we have 0, and we know that 0 is less than A. So let's write it here. 0 is less than A. It means that A is greater than 0, right? So A is a positive number. So this here represent A. And B, we know that B is less than 0. So that means B is a negative number. So to write it, so this is B. So what this tells you is that only A makes sense, because we know that A must be greater than B, because A is positive number, whereas B is negative number, right? And so that makes B definitely not a right answer. And C is not necessarily a correct answer, because let's pick a point here. Let's say if we have here 1 and then -2. So absolute value of 1 is not greater than absolute value of -2, right? So that's also wrong. And definitely D is not right, because A can be any positive number and B can be any negative number. So this relationship is not right. So the answer is A.
Question 19. A food truck sells salad for $6.50 each and drinks for $2 each. The food truck's revenue from selling a total of 209 salad and drink in one day was $836.50. How many salad was sold that day? Go ahead, pause the video and try the question. The answer is B. So let S is equal to number of salad sold on that day, and D is equal to number of drink sold that day. And the question is asking us to find out how many salad was sold that day. So we want to find out what this number is. And from the question, it was given that the total number of salad and drinks sold was 209. So we can say S plus D is equal to 209. And the revenue, the total revenue of each is 836, and we know the price of each item. So our second equation, we can say $6.50. That's the price of each salad, and on that day we sold S salad. So the revenue of salad is 6.5 times S. And on the other hand, each drink is $2, and we sold D drink that day. So the revenue from selling drink is 2 times D. And total revenue of salad and drink is 836.50 cents. So now we have two equation and two variable, but we just need to find what s is. So let's find a way to eliminate d. And we see that the coefficient in front of d is 2. So to get rid of d, we can either divide 2 on the second equation or just multiply 2 on the first equation. So the coefficient is the same. So let's do that. So let's multiply 2 on the first equation. Remember, when we do that, we have distributed 2. So let's move the second equation here. Let's move this here. So 2 times s is 2s plus 2 times d is 2d, and 2 times 209 is 418. And to eliminate d, we can subtract the second equation from the first equation. So this becomes 6.5 minus 2 is 4.5s, and these two will cancel out. And this becomes, once you plug into your calculator, is 418.50 cents. So we could divide both sides by 4.5, and s is 93 once you plug into your calculator, which is our answer.
Question 20. Alma bought a laptop computer at a store that gave a 20% discount off its original price. The total amount she paid to the cashier was $P, including an 8% sales tax on the discounted price. Which of the following represented the original price of the computer in terms of P? Go ahead, pause this video and try to solve it. The answer is D. So this question is asking us to solve for the original price. So let's set our variable x is equal to the original price of the computer. And from the question, P is equal to the discounted price. Right? It's telling you that's the amount that you pay, which included the discounted price and an 8% sales tax on the discounted price. So it's discounted price plus 8% off the tax on the discount price. So let's express each term in terms of x. Let's try the first one, discounted price. So in this question, whenever we have a percentage of a number, we can always write that as whatever that percentage of that, and then multiply by that number. In this case is x. And we know that the percentage is a 20% discount. So we can rewrite that as 100% minus 20%, right? Because it's a discount, so we minus 20%. If it's a 20% marked up, we can rewrite that as 100% plus 20%. So in this case, 100 minus 20% times x, which is 80% of the x. And whenever we want to convert percentage to a number, we can always rewrite that as the number over 100. So we had 80 over 100 times x, which is 0.8x. So that is our discount price. And to calculate the tax, once again, we have 8% off the discount price, right? Discount price. And from the first part, we know that the discount price in terms of x is 0.8x. And to convert this 8% into our number, we write 8 over 100 times 0.8x. So plug this into your calculator, we get 0.08 times 0.8 times x. So this here is the sales tax that she paid. And when we rewrite and plug in each of these into the equation, P is equal to 0.8x plus 0.08 times 0.8x. And we can simplify this by pulling this term outside. So we have P is equal to 0.8x times 1 plus 0.08, which in turn is equal to 0.8x times 1.08. So to solve for x in terms of p, we divide both sides by each of these number. So it will becomes p over 0.8 times 1.08, which is equal to x. And that is our answer.
Question 21. The data in the table above were produced by a sleep researcher studying the number of dream people recall when asked to recall their dream for 1 week. Group X consists of 100 people who observe early bedtimes, and Group Y consists of 100 people who observe later bedtimes. If a person is chosen at random for those who recall at least one dream, what is the probability that the person belongs to Group Y? Go ahead, pause this video and try the question yourself. The answer is C. So let's imagine this. The question is asking us to find what is the probability that if we pick a random person from this group of consists of at least one dream, what is the probability that belong to Group Y? So to better help you visualize this, let's draw this out. So let's say we have a group of people. These are the people, so number of people with at least one dream. And from here, we know some of these people will be from Group X and some will be from Group Y. So we have some in Group X and then some from Group Y. So if we were to randomly pick any one from here, there are certain chance that it will be from Group Y and the other chance from Group X. So to know what is the probability that if we pick one random person from here belong to Group Y, we write this equation. The number of people with at least one dream in Group Y over the number of people with at least one dream. Right, and this we can easily solve this by looking at the table. So let's look at this. The number of people with at least one dream in Group Y is this box here. These people in Group Y has 1 to 4 dream, plus
these people here because they have 5 or more dreams. So we have 11 plus 68. And the number of people with at least one dream is this number here, 39 plus 125, because these two people has at least either 1 to 4 dream or 5 or more dream. So here we have 39 plus 125. And the result will be 79 over 164, which is the answer.
Question 22. Which of the following best approximates the average rate of change in annual budget for agricultural natural resources in Kansas from 2008 to 2010? Go ahead, pause the video and try to solve it. The answer is so whenever we have a question regarding a table, at first it's important to read what the title is, and in addition also pay attention to these small font on the bottoms. So this table stated the annual budget for different programs in Kansas from 2007 to 2010, and on here it says that the table above lists the annual budget in thousands of dollars. So this is a very important point for each of 6 state programs in Kansas from 2007 to 2010. And the question is asking the average rate of change in annual budget for agricultural and natural resources from 2008 to 2010. So let's circle the part that we are really looking at. So it's the agriculture and natural resources from 2008 and 2010. And we are calculating the average rate of change in the budget. So in this case, it will be change in the budget over change in year, right? Because here we have 3 different years of data, and the changes went from this number to this number. So we could put 488106, and remember here is each number in the table is in thousands of dollars, so remember to put the thousand back in. That's why it's very, very important that you pay attention to those small font on the bottom. So once again here, that's the difference between this number to this number. And the changes in year are 2 years, because from 2008 to 2009, that's change in 1 year, and from 2009 to 2010, there's a change in the 2nd year. So plug that into your calculator, you get 129,398,000 divided by 2, and you get 64,699,000. And that is our answer, which the closest to this one, because it's only asking you to approximate. So the closest one is B. Question 23. Of the following, which program's ratios of its 2007 budget to its 2010 budget is closest to the human resources program's ratio of its 2007 budget to its 2010 budget? Go ahead, pause this video and try to solve it. The answer is B. Before we try to solve this question, first let's review the key concept of ratio. When we have a ratio of a number A to a number B, we can rewrite that as A, this column B, or in other words, we can rewrite that as A over B. Alright, so in this case, it's asking you to find which of these four categories has this ratio from the budget in 2007 to the budget in 2010 with a very similar ratio as in the human resources. So let's look at human resource and find out its ratio. So for human resource, and remember, we are looking at the ratio of the budget in 2007 to the ratio in 2010. So we can rewrite that as 4, 1. Remember, also in thousands. 2, 5, 9, 2, 1. 379, and this, remember from our review, the ratio of this to this is just this divided by this. So if we divided this number by this number, we will actually get a number very similar to 4 over 6, which is equal to 2 over 3. So now let's look at each of these and see which of these, when we divide this number to this number, will gives us closest to 2 over 3. So first plug this into the calculator. When we divide this number by this number, so let me write it here. So let's have 373,904 divided by this. The ratio will come out to be a number very similar to 3 over 4. And if we were to do this number divided by this number, once again the ratio is very similar to 2 over 3. So that is our answer. But let's just keep going and check. So if we plug this number and divide it by this number, the ratio is 5 over 6. And lastly, for this number divided by this number, the ratio is roughly about 5 over 9. So that means we know this is not the answer, this is not the answer, this is not the answer, and only B is the answer. Question 24. Which of the following is an equation of a circle in the xy plane with center 0, 4 and a radius with endpoint 4 over 3 and 5? Go ahead, pause this video and try to solve it. The answer is A. To begin, let's review our equation of a circle. When we have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared, where the point h and k is the coordinate of the center, and r is the radius of our circle. So from the question, we have center at 0 and 4. So let's plug that in. So we have x minus 0, which is the h in this case, plus y minus k, in this case is 4. So y minus 4 squared is equal to r squared. So now we have pretty much almost all the part in this equation except r squared, and immediately we can cross out the answer B and C. So we just have to figure out what r squared is. To find out what r squared is, it's easier to draw it out. So let's say a point here. This is our circle with the point 0 and 4. And we have a point, one point, at the endpoint of the radius at this point here. So let's draw that. 4, 3, and 5. And to find out what the distance here, which is r, is, we can use the distance formula to find out the distance between these 2 points. So the distance formula in this case, r squared is equal to the difference in x squared plus the difference in y squared. So r squared is equal to the change in x. So in this case, it will be 4/3 minus 0 plus the change in y. In this case, it will be 5 minus 4 square. So r squared is 4/3 minus 0 is just 4/3. So 4 squared is 16, 3 squared is 9. So we have 16/9 plus 5 minus 4 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So this here is just 1. And 1, we can rewrite that as 9/9. Right? Because in order to add this fraction, the denominator has to be the same. So now, once these two numbers is the same, we can add the fraction. So this becomes 25/9. And once we know what r squared is, we can plug it back in here. And so we have 25/9. And our final equation is A. Question 25. The equation above expresses the approximate height h in meters of a ball t seconds after it is launched vertically upward from the ground with an initial velocity of 25 meters per second. After approximately how many seconds will the ball hit the ground? Go ahead, pause this video and try to solve the question. The answer is D. So at first, this question might seem very difficult because it's giving you a lot of information, such as a initial velocity. So how does that matter? So in the SAT, sometimes the question will give you a lot of unnecessary information, and the really important thing is just look at the question and see what it is asking. So in this case, it's asking approximately how many seconds. So it's asking us to find what is the t when the ball hits the ground. And we know h is the height of the ball after a certain time t. So really what this is asking is to have you set h is 0 and when this happened, at what time? T is equal to what? Because when the ball hits the ground is at a height of 0, correct? So let's solve this. So h is 0, so the equation becomes 0 equal to negative 4.9 times t squared plus 25t. So we can factor out t on the equation. So we have t times negative 4.9 t plus 25. So this here we can just say that we can ignore this because we know at t, at the starting time, the ball is on the ground, so that's 0. So what we are really interested is to solve this part here, because when this is 0, this whole thing is also 0. So let's solve for this. Negative 4.9t plus 25 is equal to 0. So let's move this on the other side by adding 4.9t on both sides. 25 is equal to 4.9t divide 4.9 on both sides. So we have 5.1 as our answer after we use our calculator, which the closest to this is D, 5.0. And we are done. Question 26. Katrina is a botanist studying the production of pears by two types of pear trees. She noticed that type A trees produce 20% more pears than type B trees did. Based on Katrina's observation, if type A tree produced 144 pears, how many pears did the type B trees produce? Go ahead, pause this video and try to solve your question. The answer is B. To solve this problem, let's set our variable. Let A be the number of pears produced by the type A tree, and B is number of pears produced by type B tree. And from the question, we know type A tree produced 144, and we want to find out how much the type B tree did. And the relationship that is mentioned in the question is that type A tree produced 20% more pears than type B tree did. So we have the equation A is equal to 20% more. So we have 100% of times the type B tree plus that 20% extra that the type B tree did. And we can pull out this B term on both, and so this becomes 100% plus 20% times B, and we have 120% times B. And whenever we have a percentage, we can always rewrite that as whatever the number here over 100. So 120 over 100 times B, which simplify into 1.2 times B. So now we have this simple equation, and we know what A is, so we can solve for B. Let's do that. So A is 144. So 144 is equal to 1.2 B, and so we divide 1.2 on both sides. This get cancelled, and plug this into your calculator, and we will get B is 120, which is the answer. Question 27. A square field measures 10 meters by 10 meters. 10 students each mark off a randomly selected region of the field. Each region is square and has a side length of 1 meter. And no two regions overlap. The student counts the earthworm contained in the soil to a depth of 5 centimeters beneath the ground surface in each region. The results are shown in the table below. Which of the following is a reasonable approximation of the number of earthworms to a depth of 5 centimeters beneath the ground surface in the entire field? Go ahead, pause this video and try to solve the question. The answer is C. To better solve this question, it is easier to visualize. So we have a field of 10 meter by 10 meter. And there are 10 students. Each student randomly select a square that is 1 meter by 1 meter. So they're random, and no two of these regions overlap. So please note these are not drawn to scale. So in other words, each of these square is 1 by 1. So the total area of this field is 10 times 10, which is equal to 100 square meter. And each of these small block is 1 times 1, which is equal to 1 square meter. In other words, each of these regions is 1/100th of the total area in the entire field. So if we were to repeat this region, small region, it will take 100 times in order to cover this entire field. And from each of these small regions, the number of worms that they found ranges from the smallest 107 all the way to 176. And if we were to expand this region to cover the entire field, we multiply each of these by 100. So this is for a small region. And if we want to know the entire region, which contain 100 of these small regions, in theory it could range from 107 times 100 to 176 times 100. In other words, it ranges from this number to this number. And the only answer that has this number included is answer C. Answer C is approximately inside this range, and we know this is the smallest possible number of worms that in theory that could be found in this entire region, whereas this is the largest. So answer C is somewhere in the middle, and that's one reasonable approximation, as it doesn't make sense if one small range has already 100, the entire field cannot be around 150. Same goes to B, and D is just too much, it's an overestimation. Question 28. If the system of inequality between this inequality and this inequality is graphed in the xy plane, which quadrant contains no solution to the system? Once again, pause the video and try to solve the answer. The answer is C. The best way to visualize this problem is by graphing it. So let's draw it on the graph. This is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So let's look at the first inequality. We have y is greater than or equal to 2x plus 1. And to review this, remember our linear equation. So we have y is equal to mx plus b, where b here is the y-intercept and m here is the slope. So in this case, the y-intercept is 1. So it will be right here, and the slope is 2. So that means it will go up to 1, 2, and over 1. So the slope is right here. And we are drawing a solid line because this is a greater than and equal sign. So the first graph will look like this. And we are shading the area above the line because it's y is greater than x. Alright. And for our second equation, the y-intercept is -1. So let's draw it here. And the slope is 1/2. So that means the rise is 1 and the run is 1, 2. So it's right here. And in this case, we are doing a dotted line because there's no equal sign here. So let's draw a dotted line. And the area we are doing is above the line. So it's like this. Alright, and the solution to this system of inequality is the area when they overlap. So it will be this area here, drawn in yellow. So this area here, this area here is drawn in yellow. And we can see the solution to this contain quadrant 1, quadrant 2, and quadrant 3, but not quadrant 4. So that's why the answer is C. Question 29. For a polynomial p of x, the value of p when x is 3 is -2. Which of the following must be true about p of x? Go ahead, pause this video and try to solve it. The answer is D. So this question, at first, it is one of the more abstract problem, but let's try to write this. So to solve this, just by looking at the answer, it might take a while to find if any of these are a factor of p of x because we don't know anything about p of x. But what we can know is that what happens when we divide x minus 3 with p of x. So let's try that. When we have this polynomial divided by x minus 3, we can rewrite that as, we know that this polynomial, when it's divided by this term, it will give us another polynomial. We can call that f of x plus a remainder number over this. And once again, this remainder here, it could be 0, could be anything. And we can just rewrite this whole thing by multiplying both sides by x minus 3. So this whole thing by x minus 3. So this term distribute, and this here cancel out. So we have p of x is equal to f of x times x minus 3 plus r. And from the question, when p of 3 is equal to -2, so we can plot 3 into x. So we have f of 3 is equal to 3 minus 3 plus r. And this whole thing is equal to -2. So here we have 3 minus 3, which is, this is just 0. And 0 multiplied by anything is 0. so 0. So we can conclude that when r is equal to -2, and this is the answer, the remainder when p of x is divided by this term x minus 3 is -2, which we prove in here. Question 30. Which of the following is an equivalent form of the equation of the graph shown in the xy plane, from which the coordinate of a vertex can be identified as constant in the equation? Go ahead, pause this video and try to solve the question. The answer is D. Before we started, let's review our basic quadratic equation. So in our quadratic equation, we have y is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k, where a is just a constant and the coordinate h and k is the coordinate of the vertex. So knowing this, we can transform this equation into this form, and then we can solve for the answer. And let's write this equation. Y is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 15. So in other words, in order to transform this equation into this form, it's asking us to complete the square to transform this into some kind of a square form. And the first step when we are completing the square is to divide each term by the coefficient in front of the x squared. However, in this case, the coefficient of x squared is 1, so we just divide everything by 1, which is no need. And the second step is that we add this coefficient in front of x divided by 2 and take its square. So in this case, the coefficient in front of x is 2. So we divide that by 2 and take its square, which is equal to 1. So here we add 1 to this equation. And remember, because we are adding 1 to this equation, we have to subtract 1 here, so that plus 1 and minus 1 will balance out, because this is the same as adding 0 to the equation, right? Plus 1 minus 1 is 0. So this here now becomes just x minus 1 square minus 15 minus 1 is minus 16. And this equation turned into our answer, which is D. And if you guys want to know more about completing the square, I'll be doing more video on it, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to see more video like this, please consider subscribe and click the bell notification icon. And lastly, if you have any comment, feedback, or suggestion, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Thank you once again.